Okay, hello, welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Kyleen Smith. Kyleen is an American, a
Yes.
New York City resident, a real estate agent, a former actress, and a friend of mine. So I'm looking forward to catching up with her today, see what she's been doing recently, getting stuck into a real estate career. I know it's something she's been focusing on a lot recently. Learn a bit more about that for her to share her journey and share her wisdom. So I can't wait to get stuck into it. So Colleen, with that introduction, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Good, good. Busy. The spring market's kicking off here.
Yeah,
So it's just, I literally just got done working before I hopped on here. So
yeah, because you're still in the office at 9 o'clock at night, right?
I am. Quit the 9 to 5 to work 24/7. You know what they mean?
Yeah. Okay. So let's get stuck into what you're doing currently. So you've been in the real estate game now for a year or so. Is that right?
Year and a half. Yeah.
Year and a half. Yeah. Talk to me like how's it all going? It seems like you've really been ramping up your efforts recently. I know you've been focusing a lot on it. Really getting into that career focus sort of mindset. How are you finding things at the moment? How's it all going?
Things at the moment, it's been really crazy. Like you mentioned before, I've been in real estate for about a year and a half now. But I can tell you the last 3 months have been completely transformative compared to the past 16. So I've made a lot of mindset changes recently, and I've really changed my business in the last 3-4 months. And I'm feeling it. Feeling the hustle. I'm feeling the grind. New York City real estate is unlike any other real estate industry in the whole world. We always tell our clients that New York City is the exception, not the rule, when it comes to real estate. And the spring market is here, which is a very, very busy time. So yeah, just hustling and grinding. 9 p.m. I'm not even the only agent here right now. So
Yeah.
it's just what you do.
Yeah. I want to get into what's changed in the last few months. But before I do, you mentioned the market, the New York City market is unlike anything else. How is it different? How would you describe it, say, compared to
Well,
others?
there's a lot of different, where to start. The rental market, first of all, is very different because it's very highly, highly competitive to move here. Believe it or not, a lot of people want to move to New York City. And laws here are very different. They're very, very strict when it comes to, not laws necessarily, but landlords' rules are very strict if you want to move here. You can't just come with cash in the bank. Like, it doesn't matter. I've seen people with millions of dollars in the bank not be able to get a $4,000 a month rental because you have to be able to show those pay stubs. You have to be able to show your employment letters. You need landlord recommendations. You need credit scores. You need to be able to show that you're a good tenant because here in New York City, eviction laws are very for the tenant. So squatting can become kind of a problem. So landlords are very, very, very picky about who they move into their most prized assets. And not only that, when it comes to the buy side of things, when you're buying in New York City, it's not just buying a house, buying an apartment. There's co-ops, there's condos, and those processes are very difficult and they're very delicate. Ooh, I might need to connect you to the Wi-Fi. Oh, hold up. Joe, can you hear me even? Hold up. Will you grab the Wi-Fi? There's like a Wi-Fi thing right by the tape. Yes. I can't slide out of here. Hold up. Sorry, can you hear me? Did you hear all of that or none of that?
Yes, he can.
I no shot he can hear me. Okay. Jesus.
Redefining all over this.
Can you hear me? Joe? Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me or not. Um,
Text them.
go there to the right. Can you hear me? Do you have any, can you hear me at all? Can you see me? There's no shot because he's typing me back. I've dropped it. I can see you.
Oh, you're back.
I hopped out and hopped back in. I don't know. Should start over on my real estate spiel?
Yeah. Let's,
Okay.
we can edit it.
Okay. I'm like, okay, what makes real estate in New York City so different is the fact that eviction laws are very much cited for the tenants. So rentals, landlords are very, very picky. You can have a lot of money in the bank, but if you don't have pay stubs and a credit score and letters of employment to match that, a lot of times landlords aren't interested. Here in New York City, you need to show that your salary makes 40 times the monthly rent in order to move anywhere. So, for example, if you're looking for a $3,000 a month apartment, you need to show that you're making $120,000 a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not easy. And if you don't qualify for that, then you need to find a guarantor. And your guarantor needs to make 80 times the rent. So now if you don't qualify for your $3,000 a month apartment, now you're looking for somebody who makes $240,000 a year to guarantee you.
Yeah.
So,
they don't grow on trees, right?
Yeah, naturally. So that's why the rental market is very intense. However, people move fast here. Like for example, I threw up a $3,400 2-bedroom listing in Brooklyn the other day. It was up on Friday. We had a couple people show up to the open house on Saturday. 4 groups show up on Sunday. We had leases signed by Monday.
Good.
Things move fast here. If you don't have your paperwork ready, then you're going to miss out on an apartment. The buy side is even far more complicated because here it's not just real property. We also deal with co-ops. Do you guys, I don't know, does Australia have co-ops?
No, what's that?
Okay, so co-ops aren't technically real property. You're buying an apartment in theory, but really what you're doing is you're buying shares in a corporation, which is that property.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have a proprietary lease. And sure, you have funds and everything like that, but now you also have to do a board application. And that board application is, I'm looking at mine right now, over 200 pages of basically your life. And you have to put it in front of people and you have to interview. And then the board gets to say if you get to move in or not.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of times they want to see 2 years of liquidity in your bank accounts to even move in.
Yeah, okay.
New York City they mean business. That's why you want to make sure your debts are cleared. You want to make sure your credit score is in order. That's why a lot of people internationally do tend to struggle to rent in New York City because I know not a lot of other places do credit scores. And so they do oftentimes have to find an international guarantor.
Yeah.
So that's why I always say, I have had a lot of clients move from Europe and they're like, well, we don't need that there. I'm like, great, you're not there anymore. You're in New York, and that's what they need here because eviction laws, a landlord could be tied up in eviction court for 2 years before they could get somebody moved out.
Yeah.
And that's like money lost. and they take losing money in New York City very, very seriously.
So you've obviously got pretty clued up. You know your stuff now.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Like getting into the industry? Because I don't think you had experience before. Like learning everything, picking up things. It seems like you picked it up pretty quick and really taken to it.
Oh my gosh, no. Absolutely not. I learn something new every single day.
Sure.
So to become a New York City real estate agent, you have to take 75 hours worth of classes. I got mine done in 2 weeks, but I knew what I wanted to do. I had talked with other real estate agents in the industry for about a year before I decided to jump in. I got their perspectives. I got what the highs were, what the lows were. I didn't want anybody to sell me a dream. I wanted people to be really honest with me because I've been thinking about it for a while. Exploring New York City is one of like my absolute passions. I love it here. I've lived here for nearly 6 years now. And exploring the city, meeting new people, and seeing beautiful, beautiful properties is all passions of mine. So I finally, after a year of really sitting on it and thinking about it, I was nannying full time, and they, on a whim, decided that they were going to go on vacation. And so I was left without a job for 2 weeks without pay. And I was like, well, no time like the present. So I jumped in, did my 75 hours of classes. And then after you do your 75 hours worth of classes, you need to take a school exam that you need to pass, and you need to take a state exam that you need to pass. Even if you do all of that, technically you're not a real estate agent until you find a brokerage to sponsor your license.
Okay.
So, and honestly, I don't even think it's 75 hours worth of classes anymore. That's how it was when I took it. It might be 77 and a half now. I digress. You need to find a brokerage to sponsor your license. So while I was taking my 2 weeks worth of classes, I interviewed with 15 different New York City brokerages during those 2 weeks as well.
Yeah.
Told them when I was expected to get my license. I knew I was going to pass. I had been studying my butt off. I had really great teachers. I took really great notes, and it felt like the information. It's a lot of laws because you're not just learning New York City, you're learning New York State. I went into second interviews with the brokerages to about probably 5 or 6, if I remember right. Some of them I turned down because I just wasn't interested in the company culture that they had to offer. Or I felt like they didn't really have the resources to help a new agent generate leads. Because there's like something like 8,000 agents in New York City. And like, I have a very small social sphere, so generating leads is like something that's important to me because that's how you make 100% of your business.
Okay.
So went to second interviews with about 6, and then I went into final interviews with 3 different brokerages, my top 3. And I ended up choosing the agency because I felt like they're really like a boutique brokerage, which I felt would help me as a brand new agent as opposed to like the big 3 out here in New York, which is Element, Corcoran, and Compass. Because they have thousands of agents. And here we have less than 200.
Okay. So
I felt like I could really get to know the people here. I could collaborate with people here, and we could build businesses together. And then I got on the job, and turns out everything I learned in those classes was just to like, so now I know the laws, but like, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how to do the job. So like, I know the theory, but I don't know the practice. And so I ended up, one of the other reasons why I chose the agency is that they have a mentorship program. So I had a senior broker who mentored me on my first 3 deals. And that was a lot of, thank God. Her name is Marsha, and I called her probably 6-7 times a day, trying to figure out everything from like sending that first email to setting up comps to, I mean, a plethora of things. So closing my first deal, I was like, I need you to walk me through our CRM. You know, like there's 100 things that I had never done before, especially because I had gone from nannying to acting to all of a sudden like a big girl office job.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
I had worked in sales a little bit before. As I mentioned, my dad's in radio, and so I did advertising sales for him for quite some time. But completely different in a town of 3,000 people to doing a real estate job in New York City.
So the steep learning curve
Yeah.
initially, but you mentioned at the start the last 3 months has been a real switch, and you've having a lot more success.
Yeah.
What's changed and why?
So I did my first year in real estate. 80% of agents drop out of their first year as real estate agents because it's really tough. And I can attest to that because I got 4 deals done in my first year, 4 rental deals done. So that's not very much money. So I was hustling at a bunch of other jobs. I was not really super dedicated to like my real estate business. I think I kept thinking like things would work out. And come January, I really like kind of had like a come to Jesus with myself. And I was like, the way I'm doing business is not benefiting me. Working from home, hanging out there, calling up like my few friends every few months to see if they know anybody who's moving is like not like generating the business like I want. Like I want to be really, really fucking great at this. And right now I'm not. So I sat down and I decided to like write down some goals. And one of those goals was to get into the office and network 3 times a week. And I know after COVID, everybody wants to work from home. But now and this is unpopular opinion, but I love working in the office. I'm a total office convert. Yeah. I started getting into the office those 3 times a week, which slowly turned into 4, which slowly turned into 5.
Okay.
And I really started to get to know like my other agents and asking them questions about how they run their business. Asking them, do you have an open house I can help out at? Chatting with them at that open house, seeing how they run their open houses. If anybody like needed like some extra help, I was like the first person to jump on. This week alone, I have had like a ton of real estate firsts, like just this week. And I've like been learning so much in these last like 4 months since January. Now, like I got my first landlord lead rather than tenant lead. And I closed that, like I said, in 3 days. Yeah. And that's because of the information I've gotten from like my senior brokers who have been like the kindest, most collaborative people like I've ever worked with. And they're like so down to collaborate. That's like the coolest bit. I mean, and now I'm getting to like really, really learn the sales side as well, which is something I've always wanted to do because the sales side in New York City is not easy. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of knowing your stuff. It's a lot of negotiation power, and watching like all these senior brokers do that and then them handing me the reins when they feel like they trust me has been like incredible. So I'm like a junior broker to one senior broker now. We really jived at an open house, at a broker's open that she was throwing. And she was like, I think I need help with my marketing and my social media. And I've been watching a lot of your marketing and social media. And I think like you could help me and I could help you. And I was like, cool. She's like, all right, I'm going to have you take a disc test. I don't know if you guys do disc over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had me take my disc test to see if like our personalities would work. I'm a high I, by the way. Very high I.
Shock.
So we looked at it and we're like, yeah, I think like we would really complement each other. And then another senior broker was like, I would love, say I've been working with you a lot on one property. I think you and I could help each other build each other's businesses really well just by keeping one another accountable. I was like, okay, deal. He's like, I'll pay you like task by task work. Like, he's like, I need help setting up call lists. I need help writing out mailers. Like, and I don't always have the time to do that. Like, would you be down? I'm like, of course I'd be down. I'm like, an opportunity to learn and get paid. Why would I turn that down? So, and now we've like sent out several mailers to several buildings that he's done business with. We did a home buyers happy hour for first time home buyers. We're running events together. We're building business. My pipeline all of a sudden is full of people that I've just met in the last 3 months alone. And collaboration, I think, is really what my long spiel is getting down to. Collaboration is the secret sauce to real estate. So,
and just putting yourself out there way more by the sound of things.
yeah, yeah.
Just not sort of
Because
sitting
there's
at home and
so
getting out
many people to learn from.
there. Mm.
Like, if I hadn't changed what I was doing, I'd still be at home, like going out on like one-off rental tours, which are great and like hold like some potential, but now I've like set myself up for success in a completely different way.
It's good that you kind of like look yourself in the mirror and like, I'm not doing enough. Like you recognize it. You're like, no one's going to do it for me.
No,
kind of thing. Like,
exactly.
What would you say, like, the best way? Maybe there's multiple different ways, but like the best way to generate leads is in real estate in your particular business.
Meeting people, going out and meeting people. There's so many different like intense like personalities in New York City, and because like I mentioned before, there's like a zillion agents out here. 8,000 might be underselling it, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody knows somebody in real estate, and it's important to remain top of mind. So I'm going out, meeting people, and talking about your job, which is like an unpopular opinion, I think, but you know, what you do is a part of who you are, and like, why not talk about it? Especially since it is something I'm very passionate about and something that I really enjoy. I always have business cards on hand in every purse that I take out, and I do always end up steering the conversation towards real estate. Because somebody's always moving in New York City, or they know somebody who is moving. So that's one way. The other way is social media. If you're not using social media, you're not tapping into one of the easiest free resources that we have at our fingertips. And it's so easy. You're already taking professional photos. You're already doing the apartment tours. Why are you not throwing it up on your social media and reminding people what you do? Like, there's, of course, like a delicate balance to like keeping like some of your profile professional and some of your profile personal. I think personally, as like a younger side millennial, I think people do still want to get to know you. I think if your page is all work and no play, people tend to tune out. But I think posting every day and really like reminding people of who you are on the algorithm is like very powerful. And I think those are probably, and then senior agents. So many agents here have so many rental leads that they do not have the time, energy, or money to tap into because they're busy doing sales. And you're like, hey, like, have you checked your CRM lately to see if like you have like any rentals that like you should be checking in on? I'm free. Or, hey, like, I know you just had a rental open house and you had like a bunch of people come direct. Do you need people to convert those for you? And they're like, oh my God, yes, there's no way I have like enough time to take them on my plate. Like, you have to be unafraid to ask the question, and you have to be at a brokerage that's down to collaborate with you like that.
How do you sort of manage balancing, like, or it sounds like you're always on, like, you know, you're working late at night tonight, you know, when you're in social situations, it sounds like you're still thinking about your job and you're networking. It's something I struggle with as well. Like my job, I kind of take it with me all the time. I'm always thinking about it, but I don't really mind. But how do you sort of, how do you cope with it? And is it something you're okay with? You know,
I think it's like part of the culture in New York City. Like, if you like want to make it here, like you got to be really good at your job.
Yeah.
And or you only hang out with people from work, and then like you don't want to talk about your job when you're out. I feel like or you just don't work at a job that like you're passionate about and you don't want to talk about it. I feel like those are like the three modes. And I'm really passionate about my job and I really love it. And I'm perfectly okay with talking about it in all situations.
Yeah.
And I even have like a friend who's like, I always think about you when it comes to real estate. She's like, you're like my real estate girl. She's like, you're the first person I think of, which is crazy because she worked on like a real estate company like website. And I'm like, but because I'm always working to stay top of mind that way, like, I'll be real estate girl. That's perfectly fine with me. Generate my business. Like, that's fine. So I think it's a part of who I am. And I think that's awesome. I think it's great to find a job that you really love,
Yeah,
you're passionate about, that you're willing to talk about in all types of situations of life.
yeah. I think like anyone who's successful in anything is like you have to live and breathe it to some
Yeah.
extent. And unfortunately, like, there will be things that you have to sacrifice, you miss out on. But if you're okay with that, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think.
In real estate's a business that I truly think that you always have to be curious. Like,
Yeah,
you can't just like show your client an apartment and be like, why don't you like it? You know, like it's a job where you're constantly probing people and you're constantly asking them questions.
mm,
Because nobody's moving because they're in like a casual situation in life. Well, hardly
yeah,
anybody's moving because they're in a casual situation in life. They're certainly not buying and selling because they're in a casual situation in life. People are getting married. People are getting divorced. People are breaking up. People are moving in together. People are having babies. People are getting a dog. Like, there's these big life moments, and millions of apartments have those stories in them. And people have different wants and needs based on those stories. And if you aren't getting to know your clients, even in like a casual setting in a bar, talking to somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, we're going to move in together for the first time and we're trying to find a 1-bedroom. We're both trying to leave our roommate situations. You're like, that's crazy. What's your price range? Do you have a dog? Are you guys getting a dog together? Do you think you're going to get a dog together? Like, you have to
yeah.
be so curious about
Just
the
question
people you're
everything.
working with. Like, you have to get to know them so well. You're into the most intimate parts of their lives. You're into their bank accounts, okay?
Mm.
Like, you're seeing everything. There's nothing hidden. So
And
it's
you can't fake that. Like I think
no,
all the best salespeople are like, I always think, yeah, naturally curious, but you have to be
yeah.
natural about it. You have to like have to be interested. Like, why did you get that dog? Like,
You can't
what's
be
the next step or
complacent
whatever?
about somebody's big investment. Sometimes
Mm.
the biggest investment that they'll make in their lifetime. You can't be complacent about that. You have to be curious about every facet. It's important. And if you're not passionate about that, you're not a very good agent. That's why 80% of people quit.
Mm.
They think it's like a passive little side hustle that they can do while like, oh, I'll just like rent out, or I'll just sell like 4 houses a year and I'll be fine.
Yeah,
But that's
why do so many people drop out? Is it because it's just too
it's
tough?
hard. It's
Yeah.
not an easy job.
Yeah.
Like, it's competitive.
Mm.
I mean, I went on 3 sales pitches this week. And we were like, they saw one from every single brokerage in the city. And there's so many brokerages in the city, and they're having to look at all the information to decide like who's going to be the best one. And you always have to be able to bring something new to the table. Whether it's your technology, whether it's your circle prospecting, whether it's the fact that you have untapped like buyers already in the mix, like whatever like your pitch is. And I think it's important to ask like your sellers like why they're moving too, because well, of course it's important to ask your sellers why they're moving too, because then you got to know like how fast do they want to move, or is this like a casual sell because they already bought something else? Like, they're obviously not using the funds for their next purchase. So you just got to be prepared to ask questions. And as my best friend always says, she goes, not enough people are curious. There's a lot of people out here just not being curious. And I feel like this is a job where you really have to be constantly ready to like get to know people and be really curious about every part of their lives.
We've touched upon like what you've done well recently, like
Yeah.
your strengths, I guess. What are some areas that you think are still areas for improvement, things you're looking to improve, things like that?
Like I said, I'm still learning a lot. Every single day I feel like I learned something new. And it's like a learning curve that can be like very easily frustrating. And luckily I have like people by my side to like support me in that way. I'm working on my very first like big board package. Like I said, it's like staring me down right now. It's 200 pages. And every T has to be crossed. Every I has to be dotted. And I probably went to 4 senior brokers today, and I was like, how would you do your table of contents? Like, can you show me? Like, because I just want to make sure that like things are done well. And probably a little bit like organizational. My desk is always a mess. somebody should take care of that. It's probably me, but but I think I get so excited about everything all the time, like doing that next task. I think I need to be a little bit better at like assigning certain slots for certain things, because sometimes I can be working on like 5 things at once, and then I'm like, wait a second. My time management would have been way better if I just would have focused on this one thing for these 2 hours instead of focusing on 5 things for 6 hours. So I think that is something that I could really work on, because there's so many different clients and so many different needs and so many different people that I report to, that I'm always trying to do everything for everyone, that I think if I just was able to give them their hour or 2 instead of trying to do everything at once, it wouldn't take me quite so long. But that's probably why I'm here at 9:30 at night. So
Yeah, for sure. What about if you, or there was someone looking to get into real estate in New York for the first time? What advice would you give that person, or even what advice would you give
have money.
yourself? Okay.
Definitely have money. By that I mean, I don't mean to be like rich. That's not what I'm saying. But like, it's a job where you're gonna be poor for a minute. So you should definitely have your savings built up. Not only that, getting into real estate is expensive. You have your school, which costs money. You have your tests, which costs money. You have your desk fees that cost money. We're part of the Real Estate Board of New York. That costs, you have your yearly dues there. Your errors and emissions insurance. Like there's a ton of costs. And I think if I would have known that, I might have not been so gung-ho to just jump in. But I did ask that at every brokerage that I interviewed at, what are like your startup fees? Because on my very, very first interview, I went and they're like, oh yeah, this is the desk fee. And I was like, desk fee? You have to pay to work? But you're an independent contractor. So like, yeah, there's like a desk to pay for. So I think if I would have known that, it would have been like, I might have been like, oh, I should like beef up my savings a little bit instead of being like, it's fine, I'll go on the credit card, which is a slippery slope. But you know what? It all worked out. I'm here. I figured it out. But I think that's like my biggest advice. Have your savings built up. Be aware that like it took me 3 months to get my first deal done. That's 3 months without money. Like you need to be prepared for that. Like you need to be prepared, pay your bills. Because if you're working in a place of desperation, you're not in the best mindset to help your clients.
Yeah, gotcha. So that's your professional life, Kyleen. We've talked about what you're doing, for work. If we go into a little bit more personal side of things, you mentioned to New York 6 years ago from Wyoming, other side of the country. What brought about that move? How do you sort of reflect on, the sort of packing up and moving to, relocating yourself and, the journey you've had so far in New York?
I knew I wanted to move to New York City when I was 14. Which is crazy, first of all, because I'd never even been to New York City at 14. But I feel like that's a very middle America of me to be like,
okay, yeah.
I grew up in a town of 3,000 people. Itty bitty, 3,000 people. And I was like, I'm going to move to New York. And everybody told me I was insane. And rightfully so.
Yeah.
I never even came to New York City. Okay. I went through a breakup in college and I auditioned for a program in New York City that I wasn't planning on auditioning for because I was going to go hang out with my boyfriend in Wyoming. Thanks for that. But all paths lead to where you're supposed to be. And I came to New York City for a week-long musical theater intensive. I loved the intensive so much that I talked to the head people and I said, I'd love to be considered for your professional residency. I know you only accept 18 people, but if you so happen to have an opening, I'd be really interested. And they're like, we actually have 2 openings. We'll let you know on Monday. That was like a Saturday. On Monday, I found out 6 weeks later I was moving to New York City. So I packed up all my stuff. I found an apartment in Harlem, a 6-flight walk-up, and I moved to New York City, even though I had never lived there before. I'd like known like a 3-block radius where the hotel and where my classes were, and that was it. Okay. So now I'm like navigating the entire borough of Manhattan I had
Mm.
never taken the subway before. I didn't know like my right from my left,
That's crazy. Yeah.
but I always knew I wanted to be here. And
Yeah.
my residency was great. I really loved it. I met some really incredible people. I got to perform in New York City, which was a very long-lived dream of mine. I was 22 and the world was at my feet. And so then I ended up staying in New York, moved in with some friends I met in the program to Washington Heights, another neighborhood in Manhattan, and got an acting job, subleased out my place, and found out that all my acting jobs are canceled due to COVID. So, hung out in Wyoming for a minute, taught 8th grade, para-education, special education, and got to another acting program in June 2021. Moved out here with another acting friend of mine that I had met on a contract. And we moved to Bushwick. I had never lived in Brooklyn before, so now I'm like, again, in a brand new area. I had worked in Brooklyn quite a bit, nannying wise. And I jumped back into like my nannying job, and I performed for a while here in New York in that residency. And then, like, I don't know. After the pandemic, it felt like the acting industry had really changed a lot. It felt, before the pandemic, I'd go to auditions like 6-7 hours a day. I'd be in there, people would see me, I'd dance, I'd get to interact with people, I'd get to network. And that was like the real benefit of it for me, because you become a familiar face, like people can really get to know you. And then it was all self-tapes, and it was expensive to self-tape. I thought, like, if I got like a dance callback, then I would have to pay money to rent a room to do a dance callback, and things just got like really expensive. And then you can see like how long people are watching your videos that you're sending in, or if they even ever click on them. So like, it used to be at least you get 30 seconds in a room in front of a casting director, and now you're like, well, now I'm like one of like 5,000 videos. They're not even going to get through all of them, so what's the point? And I just didn't really feel like it was benefiting me anymore at 25, 26. I did like my last acting job about a year ago. I did some film work, and I just was like, I think I would just rather build my real estate business. And it's made me really happy. And I never thought I'd be happy doing anything else. I really always thought like I'd only be happy if I was like on the stage.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I have like time to like find so many like other passions of mine. I worked professionally as an actress for 7 years, and I feel so blessed to have been able to have that experience. I got to live all over the country. I got to meet so many amazing people, but now I don't have to live out of a suitcase. Now I've gotten to live in the same apartment for 3 years, and that's very exciting. That's the longest I've ever lived in an apartment ever. And it's great. It's really nice. It's really nice to set down roots, which I never thought I would like ever be able to do with this acting career. And now I get to.
I think that that's quite sort of typical. Like a lot of people in their 20s, I always say to people like your 20s are like for trying stuff. Like try live in new places, try like different careers. Like don't like pin yourself down to something too soon and just be like, right, that's it for me forever. Like because you've got more time than you think. So I think like that you in your early 20s doing a bit of that, and the mid 20s, and then sort of now you're kind of late 20s. Sorry to bring that up. That's sort of that's typical. Like right now, I've sort of found my thing. Now it's time to like pick a lane and go with it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's for you. That's what happened.
I'd agree with that. And it's so different everywhere, because like 28, well, I'm almost 28, not 28 yet. 28 in New York City is like still so young.
Yes.
And 28 in Wyoming, you're like a geriatric. Like, my brother's 24 and he has a wife, a mortgage, a dog, 2 cats, and a baby on the way. I'm like, like that's crazy. I'm like, that's wild. Like, it's just different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
completely. Yeah, agree. How about your like upbringing in Wyoming? Like, how do you think that sort of shaped who you are today? Do you
I
think?
it's funny. I was talking about this earlier today. How I think being raised in Wyoming really offered me the opportunity to get to try so many different things. Um, I see I see these kids in New York because I did nanny for quite some time, and they are scheduled to the gills. These kids have got planners on planners. They've got
Okay.
so many after school activities, they don't have a second to breathe, which that's New York City. But like in Wyoming, I was able to be a three-sport varsity athlete. I was able to lifeguard in the summers and run my own swim instruction business and just be like in like as many choirs as I wanted, and like lackadaisically, like I could perform wherever I wanted, and I could be like the president of my drama club. I was able to be so many different types of like people because it was a small town, so they kind of need everybody to do everything,
Yeah.
that I got to like experience and try so much. At the same time, I'll say that like I felt really, really behind when I got into my acting career because like I didn't have the opportunity to take like dance classes until I was in college, and I didn't have the opportunity to take voice lessons until I was in college. And so I felt like I was so behind on my training. But I also knew I was like built athletically different than a lot of like my like counterparts as well, because I had been like strength training, and I had like been like the captain of my volleyball team, and like I had like so many different experiences that I felt like really balanced me out as a person. And I think Wyoming really like offers that. And not to mention it's like gorgeous and outdoorsy. So I could like hike and I could be outside all the time. And basically was, I think, growing up in a small town and like a very family centered family too. My family's very tight knit. Um, Oldest of three children, and I'm very, very close to my siblings to this day. I feel like it makes me like a balanced person.
What about, we've spoken about, what you're doing currently, a little bit about your past. What about the future, Kylie? What can I expect from you in the next few years? What are some of your career goals, personal goals? What are you sort of thinking the next few years looks like for you?
Well, I really want to be really damn good at real estate. That's like really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Um, I've always been, not always. I've only been in the industry for a year and a half, always. But for the first year, I felt like way too nervous to make a business plan. So I was like, well, I don't know what the next 3 years holds. I don't know what next year holds for me. How can I make like a
Yeah.
3 or 5 year business plan? Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how can I plan that far ahead? Um, and it's funny, I was literally sitting down today and I was like, I need to meet with my office managers and I want to make like a 3 year, 5 year plan. Like, I really want to do it. I'm really excited for like the next few steps. Right now, like I said, I'm the assistant to one, I'm a junior broker, assistant, junior broker, blah, blah. I'm a junior broker to a senior broker, and I'm like partnering with another broker. Eventually, what I'd love to do is I would love to be able to grow my business enough where I could teach people the way that my senior brokers have taught me, taken me under my wings. I would love to have $1 million in GCI. I would really love to eventually buy my own property and have my own assets and things like that, because I think owning a piece of New York City is one of like the coolest things you can do. But basically I want to learn more. I want to learn more. I want to meet new people. I want to grow my business, and I don't want to just have like hustles anymore. I want to have a career. And I think that's really where this last year has taken me from that mindset.
Love it. And this final question for you, this might be kind of similar to that, but it's kind of tied to like why you do all that and why you're striving for that. It's around the idea of like success. So what is sort of success to you? Like, and that can be professionally in your career, personal life. What is your sort of, I guess, why to sort of everything you do?
what is success to me? Success to me is financial stability, first and foremost. I like, and not even just financial stability, like financial comfort. Like you're not just stable anymore, you're comfortable. You know what I mean? I'd love to have my own, like I said, I'd love to own a property in New York City. And I would love to eventually, I think like my like height of success would be to lead my own real estate team. I watch these real estate senior brokers lead their teams and foster and teach and grow their business while helping others grow their business. And that really like strives me. And I'd love to be a part of that someday. And I think that's like what like success looks like to me. I see myself as a mentor that I've been like, as like currently a mentee, I would love to transfer that success and become a mentor myself.
And personally?
And personally, oh gosh. Personally, a really nice Prada bag. No, personally, I mean, in the next 5 years, like I said, I'd like to have like my own property in New York. I'd like to, like in 5 years, maybe a husband. Who's to say? But like, so young, so much time on my hands. But definitely, possibly, like I would love in the next 5 years, personally, to find a partner who's just as driven by their business goals. Because I think New York City is meant for people who like want to build empires together, and that's something that like I said, the personal and the professional blend so much here in New York. Even like my dating life, I'm like, who wants to hustle here?
That's your first question on dates, right?
What are your ambitions? What are your 5 years?
Brilliant.
So,
love it.
Oh, and
Kyleen, thank you.
a golden retriever. That's really the personal goal right there.
Gotcha. Kyleen, thank you very much for sharing all that. Great to catch up with you. Really appreciate everything you shared today.
Oh my gosh,
Anyone in the real estate game?
Thanks for asking me. It's good to catch up with you.
Been great to chat. Appreciate you coming on. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. Kyleen, thank you very much.
You know what, Joe? Keep hiring and inspiring.
Thanks, Paul.